Hey, this is Nikki, and I'm going to be recapping RuPaul's Drag Race Season 11, Episode 1, Whatcha Unpacking. If you watched most of my recaps, I'm sad to say that John is not going to be joining me. He said that he is up to here with my shows, and that he was going to take no more, and I really want him to recap Project Runway because I've made him see every season. US All-Stars, UK, Project Catwalk, Canada, and Australia. So he will not be recapping. And you may be thinking to yourself, if you're new to the channel or normally watch it with John, why in the world would anybody care what a middle-aged white woman said about gay culture? And I often lay in bed wondering why anyone cares. But there's a couple things. I've watched the show since the beginning. I actually recapped an earlier season. I don't think I finished because I didn't get a lot of views, but I don't have anyone to talk with about the show, and so I'm decided to recap it. That would just bring me joy. Plus I'm on deadline, which means I'd rather do anything else other than finish my book. This is also, by the way, this is where I write all my novels, in this tiny little corner, if you happen to read my book, so now you know. But I've watched the show since the beginning, since the terrible, filtered, fuzzy first season, and I like to talk about it. There's a couple reasons why you should watch my channel. I will never have a death threat for a queen. Apparently the fandom is really kind of nutso. I don't do that. If you watch my other shows, I'll make fun of a lot of things that you do. I don't make fun of someone's body shape or their appearances. I'll make fun of their looks, meaning what they choose to put on their body. But I just don't really feel that I'm in a place or that it's very kind to make fun of things that's kind of out of people's control. I have worked on a reality show, so I have a good sense of, like, you know, there's editing, but they edit what they're given. They're not like, oh, this person's really nice, we're going to make them into a villain. Like, that doesn't make any sense. You take the footage and you go, well, it's called cow a cow, or a spade a spade. And let's see what else. I love that RuPaul's Drag Race has made puns a sort of adult. You know what I mean? Like, that we're going to now just make puns cool. So that's kind of a fun thing. And I don't know, I enjoy the show. So when I watched the first season, I definitely was unfamiliar with drag, and like when they had on Gina, I was like, she's not wearing a wig. That doesn't look anything like a woman. But kind of like Project Runway, the first season you're like, no one would ever wear that. And then after a couple seasons you're like, well, yeah, someone would wear that, but you could buy that at any department store. I want to see something interesting. And that's how I feel about drag queens. I want to see something interesting. My favorite drag queens are like Bianca Del Rio, Alaska, who I always liked long term, has been someone who I find really interesting. Katya, I love Katya. I like Trixie Mattel, Trinity, but my favorites, Jinx was a favorite during her season. For Shangela, Manila, those are people who I feel were kind of robbed. Not that I have a problem with the winners in general. I'm not as impressed with queens that are just look queens, like Violet Chotsky, Bibi Zahara Benet. In general, I like to be entertained. That's just, a comedy queen is kind of going to be my favorite. So I'm a little biased that way, just so you know. Okay, so now that I've like given my proof that I am worthy of giving an opinion, let's just get right into the episode. First of all, Miley Cyrus, the worst. How can a show that is all about illusion make such a bad man? Like, it was clear, it was just not good. But I don't think it was supposed to be good. I think the whole point was that she was supposed to be, she wasn't unclockable, but she was supposed to be a little hidden so that the drag queens can be like, oh my gosh. And of course Silky is the one who does it, and then like picks her up and carries her around and does this big show, and everyone else is kind of rolling their eyes. And I'm kind of rolling my eyes at all of them. So I'm not a big fan of people who show off for the camera, but at the same time, everybody else rolling their eyes, I'm also like, okay, have you seen the show? So you're a bunch of drag queens. Like, that's how that is. That's how it's going to be. Don't be so like, oh, like put upon. And of course, after seeing all the Twitter reactions, I'm also like cutting Silky some slack because they make it, when you watch the show, they make it look like it's just a bunch of people sitting in a room. But especially when they showed Miley Cyrus going in there, they kind of had a pulled back shot where you can see all the cameras, and that's a lot of pressure. Like I mentioned, I've been on a reality show, I hosted one, and you cannot underplay how much having all those cameras pointed at you affects people's behavior. So a lot of people shut down, a lot of people amp it up. Of course, this is not just the winner. This is like a however many week long, like 12-week long or however, audition for America to be your next favorite drag queen. So you need to take every opportunity that you have to kind of get your foot in the door. So right now I am giving Silky in this whole like over the top drama, I'm giving her kind of right in the middle. Let's see, the episode was like, I think 90 minutes plus 30 minutes of Untucked. So that breaks down to 6 minutes per people. She definitely got more than her 6 minutes. You know, the commercials and then Rupaul and the explanation and all that. So, but I'm going to hold back some judgment and give it a couple weeks. My first reaction was really like, get her off the screen. But then seeing the reaction, I'm like, okay, I'm someone who talks when I'm nervous. I'm gonna withhold judgment. Okay, so getting that out of the way, we will address Vanjie. I'm glad Vanjie's back. I cannot overstate one of them, how much advantage she has because she's gone through the whole process. The preparation process, getting there, realizing all the mistakes you made. I wasn't happy with her going home first last season, whatever, but that is not the definition of how sometimes not getting what you want is like the best thing, because she was on the show. I'm sure she didn't want to go home first. She went home first, had this huge cultural impact, now gets to come back and is in such a better spot for this season. So this is like Shangela coming back. This is like Eureka coming back. You have this huge advantage, even if you were only in for one episode, because I can't tell you how much of preparation is important. Cut to Soju, who I was really excited about. I was a big fan of Kimchi. I'm normally not a big look person, but she was so, well, she was endearing as a person. And then also the look was so unique and so different. And it was like, give it all to me. I want it all. So I was excited about Soju because I was kind of, you know, we can't help but compare queens to similar queens from the past. But as soon as she was like, I've never made a dress, I was like, that's it. I'm not interested. Don't talk. No. Don't come on the show and be like, oh, I've never made a dress. You know that like at least half of the challenges, if not more, you have to sew. And so it's like going on Project Runway and being like, I've never used an unconventional, you know, product, or going on Top Chef and being like, I have never even thought about my restaurant. They come prepared. It is season 11. You need to show up and have at least done that. Go sign up for, I know it's really difficult because there's a very short window of time. If they have a job, most of them, I think, probably quit just to get prepared. They borrow money, they do all that. But you gotta like get out a sewing machine and have a friend come over and show you how to do it. So when she was like, I haven't sewed a dress before, I was like, why did you even show up? They really, what I don't like is them saying, oh, we don't like this silhouette. Kimchi talked about how it's a very traditional Asian, possibly specifically Korean. I don't know my fashion history that well. So I don't like them. It's not a male silhouette. So I kind of feel like, okay, don't be so narrow-minded. But when you look really closely, it's clear that it's like knotted and then she just put something over it to hide how badly it was made. So I'm fine. People are going on and on about her, talking about her cyst. I watched Dr. Pimple Popper. I'm like, I actually kind of find it interesting. And don't act all like, oh, you can't talk about that in front of Rue. A show that has taught me more about enemas than anything I've ever had to know. You don't need to be all coy with a cyst. I assumed it was from tucking. So I don't know. So there you go. So that's Soju. Brooklyn wins. Scarlett, I feel like everyone on the internet's like, oh, so handsome. He looks like the Beast when he transforms back into human, which is true. I thought it was kind of a rough looking woman, like a Snatch Game version of a woman. so I was a little bit like, oh, I liked Brooklyn. At this point, I have seen episode 2, so some of my opinions are, if I had done this right away, which I was holding off on, would have been much higher and lower. And having seen episode 2, some of those kind of came back down, and I will talk about that in the next recap. Sorry for all the babbling. I'm just so excited to talk about Drag Race. I literally have no one in my life to talk about it. No one I know watches this show. So please hit me up in the comments. If you threaten death on a drag queen, I'll delete it. So I guess behave. Talk about performance rather than who the person is. I don't know. Anyway, super excited to chat with you.